We'll just do like 2025. I've been inspired by Hadley to do more content about books. So today we're going to be tier ranking everything I read in 2025, which it's late July, so this probably won't get posted until August, so it's about 8 months late. When I first started my YouTube channel, I did a video kind of like this. I just think I reviewed all of them. It was like all the books I read in 2023, and I think that was also 8 months late. So I wouldn't recommend watching that because I think the quality is horrible. Maybe this one will be better. In my tier list, I have, starting at the bottom, which for some reason the bottom is green, but I didn't make the colors, is Please Don't Make Me Finish This. These are things, maybe I read it for a class, maybe I just felt like I'd be a better person for reading it or something, but things that were such a drag to finish. Maybe it wasn't even bad, maybe I just wasn't enjoying myself. Next one up is not memorable. Was I necessarily in pain to finish it? Maybe not, but I never think about it. Third one is, I see the point, but like, a lot of this one is gonna be, I think, things maybe I read for a class. I see why it's important, I see why people read this, but I would never read it for fun. Fourth tier up is would choose for book club. I'm not actually in a book club. I technically was for a few months at my old job, I guess. I never got to choose the book because we never chose one book at a time. It was like a genre book club, so someone would choose a genre and then everyone would pick something from that genre that they think they would like, which honestly I thought was a pretty good way to do a book club because then everyone comes in and talks about the books that they chose and everyone gets more book recommendations. Top tier is I search YouTube for videos about this book. I don't have anyone to talk to about this book, or even if I do, I just need more information. Reading the book was not enough. I need to think about this more. I need to spend much more time ruminating. I need to see how this book affected everyone else because clearly it affected me differently. I do have my Goodreads pulled up just to see the stars I rated everything, but even though I do enjoy giving star ratings, I don't necessarily think that star ratings hold up because you can give something a star rating immediately after you read it, and I feel like a week or month or especially a year later it could be very different. So I'm not ranking these based off of the star rating that I gave it. I'm ranking these based off of how I feel about it now in my memory. So maybe if I reread some of these, I would really like it or I would really hate it. I don't really know. Technically, these are in order. Starting like right here is the beginning of the year and then right here is the end of the year. I don't know if I'll necessarily go in that order. I might just pick them. The first one that I read in 2025, so this was a really long time ago. This was like a year and a half ago for me, so bear with me here. The first one I read is Remarkably Bright Creatures. Off the dome, I loved this book. This was a random book that my mom and I share like a Kindle account, and so books that she buys on Kindle, I can read on mine. And she read this, and I actually don't even think my mom finished it because there was like too much character buildup, and I said, oh, character buildup, let me read it. So this was around the time of like its biggest hype, and I just didn't know anything about it other than the fact that it's from the perspective of an octopus, which is true, but also not really. Like there's like 3 main characters that it circles around perspective wise. So we didn't spend the majority of the time with the octopus. The octopus, quite frankly, does not get seen enough. I want more Marcellus. Over the years, I've really figured out that my favorite genre is literary fiction, like character study, character focus. I want to see what makes every character tick. And I do feel like I got this in this book. Anyways, another thing about literary fiction that I always really love is it always seems to show like the ways in which everyone's like connected and intertwined and like, you know, it's a small world. I love that. This book definitely had it, and it just made my heart warm. I wouldn't necessarily say that I searched YouTube for videos about this book. When people review this book in their videos, I'm sat because I loved it. Hadley just read the first couple pages of this and then didn't choose it. And was I disappointed? Yes, but I did want her to read the shampoo effect, so that's chill. So I'm gonna put this in would choose for book club for sure. The second one I read last year was this book called Ishmael. What even was this book? I don't remember who said I should read this. I think maybe it was Colin. I think I saw it on a shelf And he was like, oh, like I loved that book. And I was like, really? 99% of the time, things that Colin recommends to me, banger. This one, I was like, so did you read this when you were 12 and you were like starting to discover things about the world? You know, when people are like, oh, men come to realizations in their 20s that women come to at a sleepover when they're 12? That's kind of how I felt about this book. Let me see exactly what I wrote in my Goodreads review, because I feel like I really hit the nail on the head here. I said, man feigns ignorance about the arrogance of humans, so a talking gorilla can teach him about animal hierarchy. Featuring an over-explanation about religion and its mythical components. Morals, be nice to the earth and overconsumption is bad. I don't even know if I can put it in not memorable, because it was memorable because I hated it. I think I'm gonna actually put this in please don't make me finish this, because I do remember reading this and being like, does the book switch up at all? Is it always just gonna repeat itself? So please don't make me finish this. The next book is also a book Colin recommended to me. This one was a banger. This one is Station 11. I hadn't heard about this at all. I didn't know anything about this, but I actually ran into my favorite English teacher when I was about to read this book, and whenever I see her, I always tell her what I'm reading. And I told her that I was reading Station 11, and she said how that's like one of her favorite books ever, and told me about how it's actually, I think, a Hulu series. Yeah, I think it's a series, not a movie. And I've never seen the series. Maybe I will at some point, but I feel satisfied with the book. It's essentially about a pandemic that overtakes the world and the world never recovers from it, like fully. And it was released before COVID. So seeing it like side by side with my real world experiences was really weird. Also, it has this like whole bit about like a false prophet and stuff, and I thought that was really interesting, to say the least. So I'm gonna put this, I'm stuck between the first two because I haven't searched YouTube for this. I think that's gonna be like my stickler. Have I or have I not? I have not searched YouTube for videos about this because I felt pretty satisfied with just the book, but I would choose this for book club because I feel like other people might want to search YouTube for it. Next one, book called Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau? I'm actually not sure. This one, super random. I read this as an audiobook and I chose it just because I liked the description that Libby gave me. I really liked this book and I couldn't even really tell you what it's about other than just like a coming of age story about a babysitter, which makes it sound not appealing at all. But it was just really cute to be in the head of this girl because she was so innocent but so real. Like, it wasn't innocent and like in, oh my god, this girl way. It was innocent in like in I get that way, you know? So I also have not searched YouTube for anything about this, so I unfortunately am gonna put this in the fourth one. Or I guess technically it's the second one. Let's say that's the second one because it's not first place. But I remember I did rate it 5 stars just because it was great, but it didn't change my life. So the second one is gonna be severely overloaded with books, I fear. Let's move to the other side. This is the last book I read in 2025. Technically, it was for a class I was doing. I don't even remember what the name of the class was, but I had to read a bunch of stuff by, what's his face? Oh, Oscar Wilde. Doy. I had to read a bunch of stuff by Oscar Wilde and then talk about like what he does in his writing, whatever. This one, The Happy Prince, is technically like a collection of short stories. And I remember at the time being pleasantly surprised by the fact that I kind of enjoyed them. And I think I wrote something like that like in my Goodreads review too, like, oh, I would like totally read this story to my kid, like it has like a great moral. But I'm gonna put it in not memorable, not because it was bad, it definitely wasn't bad, but I would never pick it up and read it myself, and I never think about it, honestly. Second to last one I read that year was Spare by Bryn's Harry. All the Goodreads reviews for this were horrible. They're like, if you want to know the lore about the royal family, just watch, I don't remember what it's called, but there's like a series on Netflix about it. Just watch that, don't read this book. But for some reason, I really just wanted to be in his head. This person who's had such a vastly different life from me, obviously. Just like, what are your thoughts about being born into this. Like, how out of touch are you? That was really the main thing. I'm gonna put this in, I see the point, even though, no, I'm gonna put it in not memorable because I never think about this book actually, and I actually don't see the point. He really didn't need to do this. I felt like there was no overarching theme. Next one is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was my first Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and I haven't read another one yet. I like this cover way better than the one that's on Goodreads, but I read this only because Hadley read it and then was like super obsessed with it, and I was like, okay, I need to know what's going on. Basically, this woman gets married. This is all really on the back of the book actually, so this is not a spoiler, but her husband dies in a helicopter crash. She moves on and is about to marry another guy, and then her first husband, comes back and actually isn't dead. And so then she has to decide between the first guy she married and the guy she now currently loves. Really interesting. Great. For anyone who's read this, I would like to say, why did they have to do the thing in Maine? I think it was Maine. Why'd they have to do that thing in Maine? That was just really unnecessary for the plot, and it just made me ugh. Overall, great book. I also have, I know I have Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but I don't know where, and I don't know why it's not on my shelf. I do also have Malibu Rising, so maybe I will read this soon. If I'm in a mood for a romance anytime soon, this is the one I'll pick up. Okay, so where am I putting this? I'm not putting this in I searched YouTube because I totally don't, but I would totally choose this for book club. Let's get through the Oscar Wilde ones because nobody really cares about those, which is so valid. The Importance of Being Earnest. It's a play, and it has a play on words of like being earnest, but having the name Ernest, like EA versus like ER, Ernest. And Ernest is not being earnest about his name being Ernest. So anyways, it was kind of funny, and for a book for school, I was like, oh, I kind of enjoyed that, but I wouldn't read it on my own, so I see the point. The next one is The Picture of Dorian Gray. I liked this book way more than I thought it would. Way more than I thought I would. I did have a hard time finishing it, but I honestly just think that's just because of the nature of classics. I have a hard time just with the way it's written, I guess. The actual plot in this one was great. I don't know if y'all know anything about The Picture of Dorian Gray. One of the most digestible classics, I think. It's pretty short, but I don't really know what to say about this book that doesn't spoil it. So I'll just say, if you're looking to get into classics, that's a great place to start. I am definitely going to put this in I searched YouTube for videos about this book because I listened to Brittany Brose's podcast, and she's always talking about the book she's reading, and she talked about this book after I read it, and I was so locked to hear everything that she had to say, and I loved her analysis, I loved her modern take, and I love to hear people talk about books that I enjoyed, especially when it is a classic that I enjoyed. Okay, I read 3 ACOTAR books this year, so let's bang them out in a row. I read the second one, which is A Court of Mist and Fury. This one, this was probably my hardest ACOTAR book to get through. This one, she's all like, what can I even say about this book that doesn't like spoil the entire series? Basically, the first half is like, misery, oh my god, Tamlin literally hates me, oh my god. And then the second half is like, oh, okay, that was kind of fun actually. Wait, that was cool. So I'm gonna put this one in Please Don't Make Me Finish This because, yeah, I'm gonna put that one in Please Don't Make Me Finish It because, okay, was it 1 star? No, absolutely not. I think I probably rated it 3, but it took me so long to get through that book. I definitely started that in 2024 at some point. I started that, oh, it's actually not too bad. I started it in December and finished it in May, but still, if it takes you 6 months to get through a book, if it takes you 5 months to get through a book, you probably didn't love it. Granted, is it pretty long? Yeah, but oh my god, the first half was miserable. A Court of Wings and Ruin, this one, way better. Now, would I choose this for book club? No, because it's the 3rd book in a series, so why would I choose that? But at this point in the series, things are like low-key so complicated and so interesting that I need someone to mansplain it to me. I need someone to be like, okay, sit down. I'm gonna give you an ACOTAR lesson. Because people say ACOTAR is a romantasy, and like, yeah, the first one's a romantasy, but the entire series is high fantasy. Like, this shit goes crazy. So I'm gonna put this one in. I search YouTube for videos about this book because I know there are some creators who have done like full spoiler reading vlogs, and after reading these books myself, I'm gonna watch the full spoiler reading vlog and see what you thought about this, because it's just that loaded. A Court of Frost and Starlight. Unfortunately, we're back at the bottom with this one. Please don't make me finish this, because this was literally just smut. Hate to say it, hate to admit that on the internet. This was literally just smut, and I was like, is there a plot? Do I need to read this for this series? Every time I see someone reading this on Goodreads, I'm like, yeah, you don't even know that this book isn't gonna be important at all. Whenever people say that this is literally the Christmas episode of ACOTAR, they're so right. I think there's like maybe like a couple like points that you need to know for the next book, but really I was like, why did I waste my time with this? Seriously. That's actually I only have 3 of the ACOTAR books because I I buy them used, and so I don't always see them all at once. And A Court of Frost and Starlight is one of the only ones that I have, and I'm like, I don't even like that one. That one's dumb. So I'm putting that in. Please don't make me finish this, because I was like, oh my god. Okay, let's go back to the other side. Do y'all remember that book, If She Had Been With Me? Yeah, I made multiple people read that, namely Hadley as one of them, and rocked their worlds. Or whenever I saw someone who was reading that, I was like, oh my god, let me know when you get to the last 50 pages and update me on every page with how you feel, because it was basically just like lore insanity. And so this one is the same story basically, but told from the guy's perspective, and then it also tells like a little bit after that book from Autumn's perspective and from like Sylvie's perspective, if you know who that is. Sylvie's perspective wasn't really necessary, and it was interesting to see like the after effects of what happened in the last 50 pages of the first book. I literally can't say anything without spoiling it, but oh my god. Anyway, actually the only reason that I read this book, I wasn't gonna read the sequel because I didn't care that much, but the only reason that I read the sequel is because I bought a Kindle off of Facebook Marketplace, and they brought it to the coffee shop that I was working at as like the meeting place. I was literally buying it for $5 off of this girl, and I said, hey, I can give you $5, or I can give you my free drink of the day if you want a free drink. So I got a Kindle in exchange for an iced chai, and she was still logged in and she had this book downloaded, and so I was like, hey, before I log out, I'm gonna read that. So I did. I'm gonna put this in would choose for a book club. Well, would I? No, I'm gonna put it in I see the point, because I didn't think this book was necessary. I thought it was interesting. I would choose the first book for a book club, and I see the point of this one. I'm like, yeah. All right, next one is also a choice from the bookshelf of Colin McBride. It's Never Let Me Go. I'd never heard of this one, but apparently it also has like a ton of talk around it. Apparently Colin just knows like all the random like niche ones that are really popular. I didn't understand what was going on in this book until over halfway through it, but I was interested. I can't even, like, yes, it's a dystopia and it takes place in like the UK, but the people we're following are from like a subculture of people that doesn't exist in our current world, and I was really confused as to what boarding school they were at and what jobs they were doing. You get like pretty much nothing about what it's actually about on the back of the book, so I really can't tell you, but I would 100% choose this for a book club, because I was like, what? But I wouldn't search YouTube for videos about this because I haven't. Because after I read it, I went, okay. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. I read this because for one of my classes, we read a couple like short stories by Sherman Alexie, and I liked his narration. I thought he was a really good narrator, and it made me curious to read his other books. I do now know that Sherman Alexie is not the greatest author. If you're going to read Native American literature, choose someone who hasn't assaulted women. When I did read this, I read it in one sitting. It was pretty short, really easy to digest. It kind of read like Diary of a Wimpy Kid did back in the day, you know? Like, it was good. So I'm gonna put it, and I see the point, even though I thought it was really good. Throne of Glass. This was my first Sarah J Maas book that wasn't ACOTAR, because ACOTAR, I always felt like the actual plot was really good, but the characters were horrible. Seriously, sometimes ACOTAR, I just cannot stand the characters, and I really can't stand being in Feyre's head. Like, she actually pisses me off. And so I was like, okay, Sarah J Maas can write a great book. Can she write different characters? Because I've heard so many good things about Throne of Glass and so many horrible things about ACOTAR, quite frankly. So I decided to give Throne of Glass a try. I've also heard negative things about Throne of Glass because she wrote it when she was really young. I didn't have any problems with the writing. Like, was it a little disorganized? Sure, but I thought it was fine. Since this, I have read the next book in the series. I read Crown of Midnight, I think, and I really liked that one. So I really want to continue it, but my Libby hold is at like a multiple month wait. So I would probably search YouTube for videos about this because I don't fully understand everything yet, and I need someone to explain it to me. Sunrise on the Reaping. Immediately, number one, I search YouTube for videos about this. Have I actually? No, but I definitely talked to people about it. I forced Josh to read all of them. I didn't force him, he wanted to. But I feel like that's an equivalent. Like, if I force somebody else to read it, or if I want to force somebody else to read it, or if I immediately watch the movie afterwards, yeah, this was a great book. Lord of the Flies. I see the point, but like, eh. This book is basically just talking about humanity's instinct is actually horrible. We're actually inherently bad, which isn't necessarily what I want to believe about humanity, so I didn't love the fact that that was pretty much the theme. But it's like, oh, shocker, you put a bunch of boys on an island with no rules and no one to enforce them, and they're gonna turn into a bunch of animals. Yeah, this didn't teach me anything I didn't already know about men. So, meh. Beowulf. This version specifically, shocker, borrowed it from Colin, but the translation by Seamus Heaney was a really good translation. I tried to read the OG one. I tried to read like the OG Beowulf. Not the OG in the sense that it's in Old English, just like a really old translation of it that was originally sold for less than $1. And it was such a hard read. But the one by Seamus Heaney was actually really digestible and pretty interesting. But I'm gonna put this in not memorable just because I didn't want to read that and I really didn't care. Okay, I randomly read Book Lovers because I hear so much about Emily Henry. Emily Henry's the GOAT, apparently. I have Book Lovers and Beach Read right here behind my heart. But I really didn't care that much. Maybe I just don't love Emily Henry as a writer, but I read Beach Read before this, the year before, and I was like, yeah, that was fine. Pretty much what I expect from romance though. Like, you know, like, I see the point. It's a romance, but like, meh, I didn't love it. Tom Lake by Ann Patchett was one of the most boring books I've ever read in my life. It's basically like this mom sitting in an orchard telling her daughters about her life, which isn't a bad premise, but the way it was executed was superbly boring. And I didn't think it was nearly as like crazy and cool as the daughters thought it was. So I'm gonna put this in please don't make me finish this because I was just like, I was so far into it and my Libby hold was about to expire and I didn't want to be that far into a book to DNF it. So I like forced my way through it and I was like, okay. Crying in H Mart was a memoir that I picked off of Libby just because I really like memoirs and I really like to read memoirs as audiobooks, especially when it's narrated by the writer. I had no idea what this was going to be about. I was really happy that I decided to read this as an audiobook. She says a lot of words in her native language that I would have never been able to pronounce on my own. I really liked her narration style and I enjoyed her thoughts a lot. I wouldn't choose this for a book club, so I'm going to put it in I see the point. White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Holy shit. This probably took me the longest to read of the year. This book was only like 65 pages. You really can't even call this a book. But I feel like I just wanted to read this just so I could say that I have read something by Dostoevsky. And this went crazy on TikTok for some reason. And I just did not care and I didn't think it was that moving, so I'm gonna put this in please don't make me finish this because that's really how I felt. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Immediately I searched YouTube for videos about this book. That's actually exactly what I did when I finished it and as I was still reading it, because this book is separated into multiple parts. I don't even have this book anymore, which is so sad. This book is separated into multiple parts that are very distinct, and so when people are reading it in like a vlog, they can very easily distinguish which part they're on. So I would literally finish a part and then go watch a YouTube video where someone's reading this book, and when they finish that part, then I would stop. And I wouldn't let myself like spoil it for myself, but I wanted to like buddy read this with someone. Like, I was so locked into this book, and this book is like 800 pages, like 750 or something like that, and it took me I think like 3 weeks to read, which is not a bad amount of time for that length of book. But I felt like I was always reading this book and making so little progress, which is just to say that I was using all of my brain power to really be in their world. Like, I could see everything. I knew exactly what was happening. Like, I was basically a fly on the wall, and it was heartbreaking, devastating, and I would read this again, and I still search for videos of people reading this. I just want to talk to somebody about this book. Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. I did really like this book. I don't know that I would choose it for book club, because I know so many people have such an issue with like the no quotation marks or something. People have such an issue with Sally Rooney specifically because she doesn't write with quotation marks, and I'm pretty sure that's just a mark of Irish literature. Like, she's just an Irish author, and that's what they do, I'm pretty sure. I really like Sally Rooney, but sometimes it's hard for me to start one of her books because you're thrown in the deep end with the characters and there's like no explaining. You just kind of figure it out and then you really like it. I have Intermezzo on my shelf, and I've tried to start it a couple times, but I just like am not in the mindset to work really hard to figure out what's going on, so I haven't yet. So I liked that book, but I don't think about it a lot, so honestly I'm gonna put it in the third tier. Next one, Beartown. I think I would choose this for a book club book. I have a consistent issue with Frederick Bachman that I found, just with the fact that he really spends forever developing his characters. It makes you really care for the characters, but it also is like, okay, I really don't need to know all of this. I actually get a little annoyed sometimes that I'm like still learning things about this character and we're still getting flashbacks. Like, I feel like enough is enough. So the major plot point in this book was really interesting. It was also like, damn, just makes you kind of sad. But I would choose this for book club because I feel like people would have a lot to say. Everything I Never Told You, I would also choose this for book club. Pretty sure this got turned into an adaptation with Reese Witherspoon, and I'm pretty sure I watched the first half of it and then stopped. I liked the book a lot. I did the audiobook, 10 out of 10 choice, loved it. I think I audiobooked this in 2 or 3 days. Super fast, super easy. Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. This book really just made me sad. I'm gonna put this in I See the Point because his point was like, it does get better, but then right after he released this book, he died. So does it get better? I don't know that it does. I didn't even rate this one because I couldn't even do it. Last book was Jane Eyre, which is definitely not the last book I read in the year, but I just did this in a weird order. But this was one of my first like major classics. It did take me a long time to finish, but I did end up really liking it, and I gave Josh like an hour-long spiel about this book when it ended, telling him like everything that happened and like what I thought about everything and like why everything happened. Am I satisfied with the choice she made at the end? No. I think it completely reversed everything that she worked towards the entire time, but that's beyond the point. So I would totally search YouTube for videos about this book because I feel like it's one that I would love to study in a class, especially after I've already read it, so I wouldn't have to like put in so much work to actually read it again. But I would like to examine this better in a larger lens. Okay, that's all of the books I read in 2025. Surprisingly, this is a pretty even chart. I thought it would be like really overloaded with this one, but in the top we have Picture of Dorian Gray, A Court of Wings and Ruin, Throne of Glass, Sunrise on the Reaping, A Little Life, and Jane Eyre, which is really quite the mix. 2 classics, a literary fiction, and 2 fantasies and a dystopia. Hopefully in 2026, I will finish this, or I will do this immediately after I finish everything I read that year, but maybe not. Anyways.